What is going on, everybody? It is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlotte, once again joined by my co host, Alan the Cantastic. And we are back here to review AEW Double or Nothing 2025. Um, so I thought that this show was pretty good. Um, all around. And like most AEW shows, there are a couple of things on here that didn't need to be on here. But I felt like everything that felt like it should be here was pretty good. Or even better than pretty good. And there was really only one match that I wasn't like in love with, you know? Um, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Alan, how are you doing, and what are your opening thoughts about the show we're about to talk about?
Yeah, so before we begin this review, how I've been doing, I was at TNA's Under Siege
Hmm.
last weekend in the Greater Toronto area. It was pretty solid. My first time going to a TNA Impact taping. So there was like 3 hours worth of taping. So I basically watched through 2 weeks of Impact. So
Hmm.
kind of, in a sense, know what happened ish. And like if I look up the previews or the clips, kind of can string things together.
Yep.
This covers them until they do Against All Odds at Arizona. So it was good to see them coming up to Canada in another location other than the one they previously went to. It was a much more accessible place. It was actually only about half an hour from my home, so it wasn't that far from me. Uh, and yeah, I actually bumped into Tasha Steeles at a Firehouse Subs afterwards. So I politely shook her hand and just told her, "Like, thanks, you guys did a great job with the show. Bye." I didn't ask for her photo because at that point it just seemed like this is her private time, and it's just kind of weird to like seem to do it at that
she's
point.
she's getting food. She doesn't want to take a picture.
Yeah, so was I because I was starving that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to this show. Yeah, catching up on this, it was like obviously I guess logistically, I still don't like AEW how they blow past midnight almost. I think at this point,
Yeah.
this one also blew
I
past
agree.
midnight. I'm like, but I think with the main event, it was worth it.
Mm,
Yeah, definitely the highlights of this pay per view was the finals of the men's Owen Hart tournament and the Anarchy in the arena match, which we'll get into later. I think that will take up the bulk of our analysis.
yes.
But yeah, overall, the other matches were pretty solid. I think one of them, yeah, I think at least one match here, I was a little, one or two matches here, I was a little confused about it
Hmm.
being on the card. It just kind of felt
Yeah.
like it kind of came together with no story almost, and
Yeah.
we couldn't really have. I mean, they wanted to put something on there, sure, but I'm not sure like they needed to be. I mean, it's nice to have it here, but I'm not. I think it was just thrown on here just so they could have a match with certain particular people. That's my
Yeah.
feeling on that right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it, and a considerably shorter buy-in than usual. Usually the buy-in has at least 3 or 4 matches. We only had
Mhm.
two matches on this one. The first match, which actually, and usually when they do these buy-in matches, there isn't really a lot going on with the people in them, but this one actually had some, because these all of these people have been interacting in the past couple of weeks. It was Anna Jay and Harley Cameron taking on Megan Bain and Penelope Ford. Um, One thing that I noticed obviously right away is that Penelope is starting to dress like Megan, which is interesting. Um, and yeah, I thought that this match was actually, you know, not bad. They did miss the finish on camera, which
Oh,
was, yeah, they when the finish initially happened, which was Harley hitting her finishing move, which is what that move is called. Um, they missed it completely. they cut away to Megan Bain beating up Anna Jay and on the floor, and then the ref counted 3, so they had to show the replay for us to see how the match ended.
Ah.
This seems to be something that happens a lot in women's multi-person matches specifically. I don't know why. But I thought that this was an okay match for what it was. I mean, ultimately, it just led to another match 3 days later.
So that one was the better match.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was it was a match. Was it supposed to be a no holds barred match? Because at the end of the day, Megan and Penelope won. Harley appears to have broken her nose and apparently needs time off for that.
Yeah, so they had a rematch on Dynamite that was I believe a no DQ match. I don't remember if they actually put a stipulation on it or they just said it was no holds barred, whatever. But yeah, there was a point during the match where Harley broke her nose and the ref like was trying to work on her and she refused the ref and she just wanted to finish the match. She wanted to do the spots, which is very tough of her, which is great. People like to see stuff like that. And yeah, apparently Anna Jay also hurt herself in some way. I don't know how. The match was fought. The match did what it was supposed to do, which was to get Megan Bain another win over them in a dominant fashion, and also make those two look good in losing. Penelope is just a lackey. It's literally been her role since she got to AEW from the beginning. But she has good matches. She's gotten a lot better in the ring. But yeah, I think that this obviously is probably over if Harley is going to be taking a little break, and I want to see Megan Bain possibly go for a belt. Of course, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, but yeah, this was the pay-per-view match was good, and the follow-up was just as good, if not better. The next match on the buy-in was one of those matches that is just thrown together for no reason, and it was Bandito and AR Fox, who have never teamed before.
Okay.
As far as I know, teaming
and Los Titanes de Aire, the team of Hologram and Commander.
Yes.
What I just said translates to the Titans of the Air, which is a different name than what they were previously labeled as the Lucha Stars. They were trying out things. Since Penta and Phoenix left, they need new luchadors as their like main tag team. And
well, and I'm gonna have on that point, we're gonna have some things to say about those guys when we get to the tag team title match. But those 4 men were teaming against RPG Vice, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta, and Crew, Action Andretti, and Leo Rush. None of these people have interacted in the last few weeks at all. None of these people have been involved in anything that they were doing together at all. This was just a match and this is what AEW does pretty much on every pay-per-view. They put together a multi-person high flyer showcase match with no stakes to close out or open the buy-in, just to be like, hey, look at the flippy stuff. And that's fine because it was a fun match because everybody in this match is a great wrestler. And that's really all it was just to showcase. And the ROH champion is here, which why would he be defending his belt or maybe be on ROH? But uh, yeah, it was just a fun match. Bandito and AR Fox and Hologram and Commander won, which I guess is not really that surprising. Rocky Romero and Trent are kind of just the bottom of the totem pole of the Callis family, and Crew are literally doing nothing.
Yeah, I almost sometimes forget that Trent and Rocky, who turned heel, are part of the Don Callis family, which is
Yeah,
currently filled with Lance Archer, Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Josh Alexander, Brian
injured
Cage
Brian
injured.
Cage. Yeah,
But
yeah.
you've already got 4 monstrous dudes there, and I feel like adding like Trent and Rocky there, it's almost like, do we need you guys?
Well,
I mean,
Rocky's
Dawn is
Rocky's
a
the
little,
fall guy.
yeah, but Dawn, yeah, at this point, even Dawn is more dangerous than those two guys.
Yeah,
It seems.
Rocky is literally in there to be a fall guy.
Yeah,
That's
it
that's
just
why
was like
he's there.
when I saw them added them, like, oh, this is like feels like this is getting to be like one of those New Japan groups where it's like the membership is getting a
Yeah.
little too big, and then you have like these extra dudes who are just the fall guys and the guys who
Mm-hmm.
take the bumps. Yeah, and as for Crew, yeah, the name is interesting. I still don't get it. I'm old.
Me neither.
Sorry. Although on Wednesday, Ricochet was alluding to the fact that because there were so many factions around AEW, he needs friends of his own. He kept talking about he needs a crew of his own.
Yes.
So, I
Yes, a
mean,
lot of people have been putting that connection
they
together.
kind of like look they I mean, those 3 guys would naturally be a good fit with each other
Yeah,
anyway.
my issue
You
with
know?
that is if he needs people around him to be like his protectors, he should get people that are bigger than him, not
Yeah, like
smaller than him.
yeah, exactly. So you're looking at guys like the Gates of Agony, for example. Like those are
Yes,
exactly the type of people.
exactly.
Another team who, while extremely talented and powerful, don't really have a direction at the moment.
They lost to Big Bill and Brian Keith,
Oh boy, yeah,
who are also doing nothing.
yeah. But on the bright side, it's led to one thing that I'm sure you're happy about: no Chris Jericho for a while. So,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
So yeah, that was the buy-in. Nothing, whatever. The buy-in's never usually anything special. So, all right. So we opened the show, and I thought that this was a great idea. They bookended the pay-per-view. Like basically, they just sandwiched the rest of the card in between both Owen Hart Cup matches, which I thought was the right move. And this was the first time that AEW had opened a pay per view with a women's match, and it was a hell of a match. It was the finals of the Owen Hart Women's Cup. Jamie Hayter against Mercedes Moné. This match, absolutely one of the better women's matches this year for sure. As of right now, like I think it would be on my list for matches of the year. Obviously, we still got a whole another half of the year to go. So, but I thought that these two had great chemistry. I thought that they hit each other really hard and it looked good. Everything that they did looked good. Um, and yeah, these are two of the best women's wrestlers in the world. So it's not surprising that they work well together. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the match flowed very well for the spots I remember. I mean, it was really intense. It was really just back and forth and back and forth, and it proved to you that why they're at the level that they are at. Jamie's a former AEW Women's World Champion. Mercedes has been TBS champion for a year, I think, at this point. I almost lost count, but I think she just passed
close
it.
to it. Yeah,
Close. I think she's either close to it or she just passed it. I don't. Anyway, and yeah, she's also got a number of titles from other promotions, so she's doing the belt collector bit.
yeah.
Um, I really only remember the finish. which I thought
Yeah.
was like a bit creative, and I was like, I hope someone's okay there. Um, I'll just say to finish, it basically looked like Mercedes was going for a cradle, but turned it into a DDT.
Yeah.
And then so the cradle looks like you just slammed Jamie's head really hard onto the mat.
Yeah,
And then,
and a lot of people were not sure if that was supposed to happen like that,
right.
or if it was just
It was
an
it
unintentional like mistake on a small package where she
yeah, it looked a bit
literally
unscripted and
drove her
intentional.
head into the mat.
Yeah, that was like
But
really hard. I was like, boom. I was like, ow.
yeah, but
I've seen enough
I
DDTs to know like
yeah,
when it kind of looks too sudden.
yeah. But yeah, I think that the right person won here. I wouldn't have complained if Jamie had won, but I think that this is what they had been building to for a really long time. Obviously, this is a match that we all want to see, a match that is, a top tier women's match in this company, where Mercedes will challenge the women's champion Tony Storm. And yeah, I think that they are obviously going to steal the show when they have their match at All In, and Jamie is now moving on to
Yeah.
On Dynamite.
Yes.
She was in the ring for an interview, and she was almost immediately interrupted by the lights going out.
Yeah. And then
And
the video, and then the camera panned away to the entrance ramp and showed a video of a skull that had like legs around it, and we all know that because of the teases the last few weeks of a little spider running
yes,
across screens during Dynamite, it was a debut of Stardom, former Stardom wrestler Thekla.
yes,
And then immediately they panned to the ring. And it appeared that Jamie was knocked down by Thekla, but we didn't see what happened. We just
yes,
saw her in the ring. I think the lights went out, right? And then we
yeah.
panned over to the
She was
stage.
already down on the mat when the lights
She's
came back
yeah,
on.
she was always down and out. Thekla is like looking at the camera,
Yeah,
and then she suddenly flips upside down and does the old Bray Wyatt upside down spider walk.
yeah.
And
And
then
then
she
she like,
turned, and then she flipped away around, and I don't know how she physically did it because she just flipped and started staring at
yeah,
camera, and I'm like, oh,
yeah, yeah. She like instantly flipped on her stomach from that position, like really fast.
yeah,
It was really cool looking the way she did that.
yeah.
Uh,
What I've also found interesting was I think it was like Excalibur or someone mentioned that Thekla was at Stardom, but she had left Stardom because of like certain conduct that happened with
yeah,
her over there while she was
yes.
wrestling there.
So they did an angle.
Uh,
I wasn't like fully entrenched in this, but I just kind of read up on it and watched the most recent Stardom pay-per-view, so I kind of had an idea. Um, they did a story where she was threatening to fight the owner of Stardom, and she essentially got fired. She had to win her last match, or she was going to be fired, and she did not because she was always planning on leaving at that time. So they turned
right.
it in. They turned it into an angle so that she could get fired, quote unquote, fired from Stardom, even though she was already leaving and coming here. Um. So yeah, I'm excited to see what she can do in AEW. I think she's a great worker. I've seen a bunch of her matches, and yeah, I think she's really good. And Jamie Hayter is the perfect like. It looks like Jamie Hayter's kind of going into this role of being the first feud for newcomers that come into the company. Because if you can't have a good match with Jamie Hayter,
Yeah.
then that's
What I also find interesting is her Thekla's background. So she's Austrian,
hmm
or she has, or I think she's part German. I can't tell, but she was born in Austria,
hmm
and besides speaking German, she also speaks English, French, and self-taught Japanese. And because of her time at Stardom, says here that she describes herself as she's immersed herself a bit in Japanese culture, and she sounds a bit like a female Kenny Omega based on that. Someone who is a gaijin, comes
Mm-hmm.
into Japan, learns the style. Yeah, very interesting to see. I've never seen her work before, so
Yeah.
we'll have to see what it looks like.
Yeah. And I think that sentiment is shared by a lot of people because I don't think, of course, not everybody watched Stardom.
Mm-hmm.
Stardom isn't something that everybody like. There's a section of the community that is, very big on Japanese wrestling. I watch Stardom and Marigold and sometimes Tokyo Joshi Pro. I don't watch every single show. I just watch the big ones. But yeah, so I've seen her work, and I am excited to see what she can do in AEW in this environment. Um, so yeah, we will we will talk more about Tony Storm a little later. So we'll go on to the next match, and the next match on the card was a match that I think was longer than it needed to be, but I thought, but there's a reason for that, obviously. Um, and it was a match I was very much looking forward to. It was a tag match pitting FTR against the team of Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously this stems from an angle that they did where FTR was not happy with Tony Schiavone's um, words when they turned on Adam Copeland, and they tried to attack him, and Nigel wasn't having it because he protects his collision partner.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I didn't like about this was that they made it seem like he hasn't wrestled in like 20 years. He's wrestled 4 other times in the last 5 months. So it's kind of weird that they were like, well, not 5 months, a little longer, but they made it seem like he hasn't wrestled, like ever in like because FTR was so Daniel Garcia gets involved and FTR is doing these promos where they're like, Nigel, stay at the desk where you belong because if you go in the ring with us, you're just gonna get smothered and you're not gonna stand a chance, even if you have a good partner. And Daniel Garcia is trying to talk him up and be like, "Oh, you got to be the Nigel of old, and you got to put your feelings aside for this, and just be the badass that you were before." Like, I don't know why is Nigel having these like doubting himself? We know he's a good wrestler. Just because, I mean, yes, he's lost every match that he's been in since he's been back, I think. So I, I guess that's part of it, but like Nigel is still great even after missing 11 years. So that part of the storyline didn't really make much sense to me. I understood why they did it. So because of that, this match kind of dragged because they had to do this spot where Nigel took a the shatter machine on the floor, which should not hurt more than it does in the ring, because the person doing the lung blower part is taking all of the bump. So it shouldn't hurt more on the floor just because it's on the floor. But so they did the shatter machine on the floor, and Nigel stayed on the ground for like a half hour.
Was Tony Schiavone like tending to him, seeing if he's okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what.
so I think that
That's
was
why
another
it was
thing,
dragging. That's why it was
right? Because
dragging.
they included moments where Tony Schiavone was like getting up off his desk and like helping Nigel, or like
Yeah.
FTR was like harassing him again.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like I mean, it was sort of like just a non-factor. It didn't really like resonate that much with me. Like I understand why they did it, because he's Nigel's friend and colleague, and Nigel's
Yeah.
doing this match because like in part because of Tony.
Yeah.
Like there's not like this is not like Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee at least like wrestled Gunther himself. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like like if they did it once, I'm fine. But if they just like I don't know.
Yeah.
But they didn't
But
really use words to explain so much as just physically seeing Tony getting harassed. Like
yeah.
I actually liked it better when Michael Cole like said like, "Look, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to be
Hmm.
impartial, and I can't do that if people like Gunther are like,
Yeah.
attacking me because he doesn't like what I say."
So I get that, and I mean, like the most we got out of this was Nigel was like, "Oh, I'm trying to protect my partner, and you don't need to do this. Do, stop harassing the commentary." And like when they did the contract signing, Nigel basically was like, "After this, you don't touch him ever again. You don't touch me ever again. We'll have this match, and win or lose, I'm going in fighting or whatever." And Daniel Garcia, there's an added wrinkle to this that obviously is not like something that they acknowledged on television, but like, so Daniel Garcia, his like hero is Bryan Danielson, and he never got to team with Bryan Danielson, but he's teaming with Nigel McGuinness, the person that hates Bryan Danielson more than anybody. So there's like an added wrinkle to that. So like his mentor, he never got to do this with his actual mentor, but now Nigel is, like
Nigel is his mentor.
in a trolling manner is teaming with the person that cares about Bryan Danielson probably more than anybody on the roster.
I feel as though they were teasing a change in attitude from Nigel about Bryan ever
Yeah.
since Wrestle Dream last year.
Yeah.
They
No,
did
I know that.
there was a moment where I think it was like, Nigel acknowledged that,
Yeah.
whatever feelings he had about Bryan Danielson aside, this was one of the greatest in-ring careers, we've
Yeah.
ever witnessed, that sort of thing. And so
Yeah, and I know that's probably why they didn't
like
acknowledge that.
grudging respect at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I mean that is just something that I like noticed obviously, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's teaming with So I thought that was cool. And I like I said, I thought this match was fine. It was pretty good. It just was longer than it needed to be because it was dragging for the drama
Well, the
of
drama like culminated in the finish because
yeah.
basically Danny was choked out
Well,
and
then Nigel took forever to get in the ring after taking
he
that
was
move
just
on the floor.
crawling, and like Dax and Cash are literally on their knees going, Nigel, for God's sake, hurry up. But it
Yeah.
looked like they were just mocking him, and then finally Garcia passed out and the match was over.
Yeah. So yeah, that part was fine. I didn't hate the finish. I just felt like a lot of that stuff with Nigel where he's just like taking forever to crawl into the ring and Tony's trying to motivate him and we're not even seeing that on camera. So like Nigel's just springing up in the out of the nowhere in the shot while we're watching Daniel Garcia just sit in a sharpshooter for 10 minutes. I
Yeah.
it was fine. Like I said, it was funny for how long it took, but I thought that the match was good. It just you could have shaved off 8 minutes here, like make it a tight 15 or something. Like why did this need to be almost 23 minutes long?
Yeah.
Uh,
Was that how long it was? Yeah, it's pretty close to 23 minutes. Yep.
yeah.
Wow.
So it was fine. Like I said, it did its job. They're getting FTR wins to build to Adam Copeland's return, and as we all suspect, the reformation of Cope and Christian to take on FTR at All In.
So All In's on Texas. So we haven't seen any build towards that. We haven't even seen Christian back on TV that much. And like
Well,
Cope is vanished obviously after
there's
the stuff.
7 weeks of build. There's seven
Okay.
weeks of build. There's
Yeah, okay.
time.
Collisions is Saturday. Nothing's been advertised about FTR as far as I know.
Yeah.
Um
Obviously, Cope's return's gonna be a surprise. It's going to catch FTR off guard, and then they're going to build to him needing to find a partner, and then it's going to be like, oh, well, there's only one person that can be his partner, and he might not want to do it, but he has to do it, kind of thing. And yeah, I could totally see that happening. But yeah, and there's plenty of time. I mean, we're gonna have they mentioned this multiple times, but I guess we'll talk about it here. Um Fighter Fest is going to be 4 hours long.
Yeah, I like. Did they just squeeze in a pay-per-view on TV? What
So
the hell?
I think what they're doing is, instead of having Collision that week, they're just doing a 4-hour special.
Why are they? Oh, is it because of
Probably
Money
because
in the
of
Bank?
basketball.
Yeah,
Probably because of basketball
right.
or
I mean,
Money in the Bank.
also Money in the Bank. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting on the FTR Cope Christian
Well, I mean,
payoff there.
a 4-hour Dynamite could put that in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I am intrigued about how we're going to fill 4 hours of television in one night, but
Yeah, you always complain about like these long WWE shows and how much
of course.
non-wrestling they have on
Oh,
versus
and
actual
that
wrestling.
was a topic of discussion this week. Not to it will like people want SmackDown to go back to 2 hours, and apparently that's not happening.
No, it appears
So
it was too successful. Apparently, it's working in some
yeah,
degree because they're keeping the 3 hours.
yeah,
I just watched a very good match between. I have it on right now, but we just finished a match with Naomi, Jade, and Nia Jax. They had a pretty good triple threat match qualifier for the Money in the
yeah,
Bank.
yep.
But yeah,
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
yeah.
Obviously, there's time to build to Cope coming back and All In. So we'll see. All right. So the next match that we are going to discuss is a stretcher
Ricochet,
match. Yeah.
yeah, the stretcher match, Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe.
Yes.
This is basically the ambulance match.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
combined a stretcher match and an ambulance match, essentially.
Oh, okay. That makes more
Uh,
sense now.
because I did see a lot of people like wait, I thought this was a stretcher match. Why is there an ambulance? Like
So the stretcher, if it was just the stretcher match would be the winner would have to put the loser on the stretcher and then wheel them up to a spot on the ramp, right?
yeah. Well,
But
that's what
this one,
WWE did.
right?
That's
But this one, you
yeah.
needed to put them in the stretcher and the ambulance and then close the door.
So they had a stretcher at ringside, then they also had a stretcher in the ambulance. So Ricochet just used the stretcher that was at ringside to push Mark Briscoe to the stretcher at the ambulance. So he just switched stretchers. uh,
Okay.
which I thought was funny. But this match was actually very hard hitting. I love Ricochet. I love this Ricochet. This Ricochet has been absolutely killing it. And yeah, this match kind of came together because Ricochet and Mark Briscoe's paths just kept crossing. And like they had the $400,000 8-man tag or whatever, and they were both in that. And yeah, their paths just kept crossing, and Mark Briscoe just decided, I'm tired of Ricochet and I want to beat the shit out of him. But instead of just having a regular match, we'll have a stretcher match, which is fine. And yeah, this match was great. And I mean, Mark Briscoe got some color in this match. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know what he did. If he I don't know if he bladed, but if he did, he bladed too hard. Because there was a point during the match where Ricochet was repeatedly slamming Mark Briscoe's face into the stretcher. And I don't know if that caused him to bleed, but that's when the blood started. And yeah, Mark Briscoe was just covered in blood and like all over his head. And another point that was made online more specifically was they are making fun of the fact that Ricochet is bald, obviously.
Oh yes. So you know what?
And
Now I remember the thing that about this match. That's the only thing I remember
Mark
about.
Briscoe was bald a week ago.
And now he
And
has a mohawk.
and now he has a mohawk, and they
Because
did a
he doesn't.
spot.
If they're making bald jokes, doesn't make sense if the other guy is bald too.
Exactly.
So
And
at this
they
point,
did a spot. They did a
yeah.
spot in this match where Mark Briscoe has a headlock on Ricochet, and he pulls out a bottle of rubbing alcohol from the ambulance and shines Ricochet's head. And then, of course, slaps him, which has been the gimmick. Ricochet gets smacked on the head all the time now, and I guess we can thank Okada for that because that's when it started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, um, but yeah, I loved this match. This is probably the best stretcher match I've ever seen, and that's not a very high bar. Considering most of them were in WWE, where there was no blood ever.
Yeah, there may have been some restrictions about that. Here, obviously, there wasn't.
Yes. So
This
yeah,
would not be Mark Briscoe's last appearance.
no,
During the
and
show,
we
but
will
we will get into
talk
that.
about that. But yes, Ricochet
Yeah.
won this. Ricochet won this match, and Mark Briscoe was put into the ambulance, and the ambulance did not drive away. We just cut away, and we presumed that he was just in there the entire night, which he was not.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought if you haven't watched this match, obviously, if you're here watching this and listening to this review, you had to have watched the match. But if you haven't, I would say go ahead and watch it. It was a lot of fun. All right, this is the. All right, so we talked about at the top how there was like one or two matches on this card that didn't need to be on this card. This is the first one. And that's unfortunate because I don't know why every tag title match since the Hurt Syndicate has won the belts has not mattered. Because this match, the story is MJF. The story is what MJF is doing, not the tag title match. So, of course, I'm talking about Hurt Syndicate defending the tag titles against the Sons of Texas, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, who are already tag champions
at Ring of Honor, and Dustin is also a trios champion at Ring of Honor with the Von Erichs, who are also known as the Sons of Texas when they're together. So this is either a faction or it's two separate teams named the Sons of Texas.
Yes,
I think I'm pretty sure they are a faction in all but
so
like
this continues a trend that I hate, which is champions fighting champions. Hate it, absolutely hate it. And why are the ROH tag champions going for the AEW tag championships? They should be on ROH defending the ROH tag team championships. There are other tag teams, and this is what I was alluding to when we were talking about Hologram and Commander.
Right.
Why weren't they in this match? They're winning matches as a tag team.
Even if your whole point of this was to push the MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate storyline, you could have had those the Commander and Hologram fighting for the titles instead of like two other tag team champions, right? And it's
and it would be
odd.
Cool. Obviously, that could.
I don't mind
happen.
seeing Dustin and Sammy. Great to see them, but
well, no, that's not the problem. The problem is that the ROH champions should not be fighting for the AEW championships. And there are other tag teams.
I feel like this is not the first time this has happened.
Of course not. We've talked about this in both companies numerous times. I don't need to see the TNT champion going for another belt when he just won the TNT title.
Yeah. Why is the TNT champion in the Continental Classic? Or why is the
I don't need to see the Intercontinental champion in a Money in the Bank qualifier. I don't. He already has a belt. I hate this shit. Hate it. It's one of my least favorite things in all of wrestling. Focus on the belt that the person is holding. Make the belt mean something. So, obviously, nothing in ROH matters except Athena, which is stupid. But here we are. This match was fine. But, as I mentioned, the story here is MJF getting involved in the match. The story is not the Hurt Syndicate versus the Sons of Texas. The story is the Hurt Syndicate and MJF. That's the story. And MJF was out here while MVP was on commentary, playing the role of manager. And he got involved numerous times, tried to give the ring to Shelton, tried to distract the referee, which caused the other team to get the advantage. And MVP noticed that immediately and told MJF to stop. Yeah. And then there was a point where like MJF was going to like attack one of the others on the outside, and Bobby Lashley was like, "What are you doing? Get out of the way. Like, stop." And Bobby Lashley was like, "I got it." And just beat the shit out of it. I think it was Dustin. I think he like speared him into a barricade or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like the whole entire match was centered around somebody who's not in it. And that's stupid. I get that that's the story we're telling. The story we're telling is for MJF to eventually do something that causes the Hurt Syndicate to lose those belts, or for them to turn on him, or something along those lines. But why does that have to affect the tag title match? Because this is not something that AEW normally does. They usually just have the matches and then do the story stuff later. I don't know. But you also could have did all of this on a Dynamite or Collision. Literally all of it. Because apparently the tag titles don't matter here.
Yeah, what a drastic change from like 5 years ago, or what is it, 6 years now that the Double or Nothing has been on? You know,
This is
when
the
we
seventh.
started. Yeah,
It's
this
been
is the seventh.
it's been 6 years, but yes, this is the seventh one.
Let's see. 2019, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah, you're right. It is the seventh. Yeah. I mean, I remember when it started, like there were tag teams, there were like so many tag teams, and now it's like we've got a few. It's concerning.
Well, then you also have tag teams doing other things that are not trying to win the belts.
Yeah.
So it's like but like I said, this could have been Hologram and Commander. You could have did the exact same thing, and it would have been looked cooler because Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin could have been throwing those guys around like all over the place.
Yeah.
Because Commander and Hologram don't need to be protected. I mean, Hologram's never been like pinned, but you could just pin Commander. Like, I don't know. But
anyway, show's not always perfect, so there's always gonna
of course not. There's always gonna be one or two. But like I just don't like that the focus of the tag title match is the guy that's not in the match. So we'll see what's gonna happen here, because it just seems like right now MJF is just in the Hurt Syndicate. His name is added to the graphic. He's in the group. They're celebrating together, and
Well, at some point, we know where this is gonna lead. It always happens with MJF. He makes new friends and he betrays them, and then they fight, and then
Yeah.
it just and then he just goes back to being alone. At this point, I don't know. We heard
Well,
backstage that a certain friend of his from the past, Alex Hammerstone, was hanging around
yeah.
Double or Nothing backstage.
Yeah.
Him and MJF were in a faction together back in MLW, and
Correct.
now they are, yeah. And Hammerstone had gone on to do other things in TNA and elsewhere, but he's a free agent
Even like
again.
went back to MLW without a handshake deal just for a
Yeah.
couple of dates.
Uh-huh.
He's been doing GCW. So is Richard Holiday. Richard Holiday like doesn't have a contract either, as far as I'm aware.
Mm.
But I mean, because that's what we've been suspecting, that that's where this is going, because those guys were his friends in MLW. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I would love that. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've talked about this numerous times in the past too. Why is MJF's thing always that he needs friends? Like just because he's insecure about himself.
Yeah, what a weird change from like what is MJF from a year or so ago. Like, like Adam Cole betrayed him, and then he left to heal from injuries, and he came back, and then he was just basically this lone wolf kind of guy. And then for a while, it was like, yeah, he was fine by himself, and then now he's like saying, "Oh, I need friends."
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he
Well,
claims that he's
yeah, he did. He was the guy that like said friendship was for losers or
yeah.
something like that.
Well,
Right?
I mean, he's also said on screen that the whole point of him wanting to be in the Hurt Syndicate was not only to like raise their stock, but also for them to help him get the AEW title back. But he could have just been in the Owen, and that's actually been a topic of discussion by people like Hangman and Will Ospreay. Whenever MJF like runs into these people backstage, they call him a coward because he doesn't want to work to get his opportunities. He wants to be handed them, which is what MJF does. But that's what he's been doing since day one. And I love MJF. He's one of the best wrestlers all around, character wise, wrestling, everything in the world. But when do we do something different? And I get that we tried that with the Adam Cole stuff, but ultimately that led to the same road that we've been on since 2019. The exact same road. So we'll see what happens, obviously. There's time. I right now I have no idea. Like we're we're building to All In, obviously. Right now, I have absolutely no idea what MJF is doing at All In. I don't even have an inkling of an idea. Like at all. Like because he's doing this Hurt Syndicate stuff. What is that going to lead to? They're the
Yeah,
tag.
yeah. It's like when it first started doing it, they start doing the storyline. I was like, why does he want to be in this group? I don't entirely understand.
Well,
It's just
like I
like,
said, it's to use them to get to the
yeah,
AEW
yeah.
title.
But it seems
But
so blatantly obvious. I mean, he told him himself. He says, "Yeah, I need you guys to help me get back my Triple B." Okay, well, that's not really a reason. I know that P and Max, they have a prior relationship. They know each other well, but it's not like
yeah,
is that enough to like be part of a group that has members who are hurt people and have a very
yeah,
certain look. Let's just try to
yes.
not beat around the bush here.
Well, yeah, he certainly looks like Owen Hart in the Nation of Domination right now.
Oh yes, I've seen that comparison done online with some
Yes,
people are like, oh look, it's MJF and the Hurts hit, and it's just the nation
yeah,
of Heart. Yeah.
yes. So, and that's fine that they made that work, but yeah. I just want an idea of what's going on here because we spent nearly 2 months building to MJF joining this group where they just did thumbs up and thumbs down for 6 straight weeks.
Yeah.
So, what are we doing here? All right. So, we'll see what happens obviously. So we'll get to the next match and this match I thought was another like so we've talked about and this match is the Continental Championship match, Kazuchika Okada defending against Mike Bailey. We've talked about in the past how New Japan Okada has not arrived in AEW because I mean he did when he like was still in New Japan and faced Bryan Danielson a bunch, but this Okada has not been that Okada. This Okada in this match felt like that Okada. This match felt like old Okada because Mike Bailey brought it out of him. Because Mike Bailey gave Okada the best match he's had in over a year. I love this match because it was hard hitting, it was back and forth, it was dramatic because Okada was rattled for a lot of it, and he had to figure out Mike Bailey. Literally had to figure out Mike Bailey because he didn't know how to fight this guy. And Mike Bailey brought out that Okada. And like that's why I love this match.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was. Yeah, I mean, I like that this match happened. You know, Okada versus Mike Bailey. It's always something what you want to see. If you weren't able to before, while both were either in Japan, like I'm fine that it was there. And I wouldn't put on the level of like the previous match we just discussed that it didn't need to be there on there at all. But like my sense is with this Continental title thing, it's slowly, I'm losing interest in it.
Well,
Okada's had this title. He's only the second
second
champion this title's ever had. He's closing in on 440 days as the Continental Champion. He won it back in March of 2024 in Toronto. Okay.
Yeah.
That is over a year and into that
Well,
one.
we've talked about we've talked about numerous times in the past where we think this is going. Obviously, he's going to be facing Kenny Omega at All In so that they can have that match in AEW. And I presume, and I think a lot of people presume, it's to unify those championships and discontinue the Continental belt. Because it's not needed. It really isn't. You can make the Continental Classic could be for something else. It can be for a shot at the international title. It could be for a title match of your choosing. It could be for anything. It doesn't have to be for this belt that really doesn't matter. You already have the TNT. You already have the international. The international is already on another level because of the people that have held it and the matches that it has had. So why we don't need this belt anymore. But yeah, Mike Bailey so Mike Bailey challenged Okada like essentially out of the blue just to have a match on like have a Continental title match on this show, just to have Okada on this show, which I didn't care too much. Like that didn't bother me. I was like, okay, this is a match I want to see anyway. So and it seemed and on paper looks like pay-per-view quality match, and it was a pay-per-view quality match. It was a great match, and yeah, Okada. There there was a point during the match where Bailey was going for the walking whip. What's the shooting star move that he does? What's the name of it? I'm drawing a blank.
Ultimate Weapon.
Yeah, that's the one. That's why I almost said Josh Alexander's.
Okay.
But and Okada hit a drop kick in midair. That was amazing because Okada has one of the best drop kicks in the world today. But yeah, and it's just a lot of striking, a lot of he kicked out of the Rainmaker, I think, at one point. The first one. I think he obviously hit it again, and then but yeah. This match ruled. I loved it. All right. So right now they haven't sown the seeds yet since this show. I mean, again, we talked about how we're going to have a 4-hour show next week. So maybe they'll start the build there for Omega and Okada. But yeah, let's go to the next match, and this is the AEW Women's Championship match of Toni Storm defending against Mina Shirakawa. So the build to this, I mean, there really was barely any build, but there was the history involved, so it was okay. Toni Storm was just having eliminator matches while the Owen Hart was going on, and she was just winning all of them. And then she started having fatal 4-way eliminator matches, which is not a good idea because then if you don't get pinned, you still have to give the loser a title shot. I mean, the winner a title shot. Which, unfortunately, she did get pinned by the person that is challenging her, Mina Shirakawa. And it was okay because of the history between them. Obviously, because of Mariah and Stardom and all of that stuff. And there was already and they obviously acknowledged this, that they had their first match at Forbidden Door, and then Mina gets the pin in the Fatal 4-Way. So now they're 1-1. They have to have a rubber match, essentially, and this was the best thing. Since she won the Eliminator, she was getting the title shot anyway. And this was a fun match. Not like the best match in the world, but it was fine. And these two work well together. So it was what it needed to be. It was a pay-per-view match. Mina spent a lot of time working on the leg to do the figure 4. And I think Toni Storm, and we talk about this a lot. Toni Storm is easily the best women's character in all of wrestling. And she just so happens to be a very good wrestler, so it all just gels together. She's already been, all over the world, Stardom, Mexico. She's gone everywhere, and she's killed it everywhere. And this character is going to go down in history as one of the best ever. And apparently Tommaso Ciampa is going with the beardless look. Just because I have SmackDown on the back.
I think Tommaso is going for the Johnny Sins look, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Yeah, I just saw the lights go out, and I was like, oh wait, I just remembered who's coming in, and
yeah.
Once again,
Yeah,
Yep.
I just saw that at the corner of my eye, and I was like, oh, I guess.
Well, at least we have a robust tag division on SmackDown. It seems, unlike what
Well,
it
yeah.
seems to be going on in AEW.
But yes.
Yeah,
So Tony Storm is. We talked about it earlier. Going to face Mercedes at All In, and even though I hate we talked about this earlier, the champion versus champion thing.
yeah.
Um, I like, does Mercedes work 2 matches at this show? Because like you can't like
I don't
TV
know. You bring up a good point. I thought like maybe Mercedes would do a title defense at
or
this Spider Fest or in subsequent weeks of
she lost the New Japan Strong mat title by not being pinned. It was a triple
right.
threat.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
they could do something similar in the build
Mm-hmm.
where she has a multi-person match and
Yeah.
doesn't get pinned, so we can have a TBS title match at the pay-per-view. Because they talked about when they had a face-to-face promo on Dynamite that was very good. It closed the show. It was the main event segment. And they basically put each other over, but Tony said she didn't say she wanted the TBS belt. She just wants to continue being the AEW world champion because that's the title that she cares about more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
And based on that, I not really based on that, but I think, and a lot of people have said this, but I think that Tony is going to beat Mercedes.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think that it's going to start a downward spiral. Obviously, she's already lost one of her belts by not being pinned. You can do
Yeah,
this.
I don't think Mercedes has been pinned since coming to AEW.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. She's undefeated in AEW, and her only losses are when she wasn't pinned in multi-person matches, whether it's in New Japan or in this company. Whether it's a tag, multi-person, whatever. So, I think that you just keep the rocket on Tony. Make her like acknowledge she is the standard bearer of this division by beating the one person that has not been beaten. And
although they could go the other way,
well, of
which
course,
will and then
they absolutely could go the other way. But I think that I mean, it's just my opinion. I think that Tony should retain against Mercedes because it feels like too much of a foregone conclusion of Mercedes. Oh, Mercedes is just going to win again because she doesn't lose. But that's why I think her losing her first match at the biggest show of the year makes sense, especially since she's been in the company for over a year now and has not lost. Because you don't need to continue that. You don't need to keep dragging that along. Because when are we going to build to that? Like Full Gear? That like that's why I think Tony's going to beat her. But I'm looking forward to the build. Like I said, the promo that they did on Dynamite was very good. And yeah, I guess we'll talk about this now since it kind of connects. It was reported today, time of recording, as we said, we're watching SmackDown as we're recording this, that Mariah May has been removed from the AEW roster page, and there have been multiple reports by multiple sources saying that she gave her notice in March, that she was not re-signing, and that she is going to WWE. And that's crazy to me, not because she's going to WWE, because of the story that she did in this company that was one of the best stories ever told in this company. It was literally her entire run. Her entire run was this story.
Yeah.
And then it just ends.
The last shot of Mariah May is laying unconscious while the words "the end" flash above in the big screens.
Yeah.
It was basically the ending of a movie.
And a lot of people have been saying, like, they did that promo building to that match at Revolution where Tony said that she was going to banish her to obscurity. Obviously, people are calling that going to WWE, but that's just a joke. Obviously, I'm very happy for her because her dream, we've talked about this before, her dream was to go to WWE. She has stated that. That's been the talk of whether she was leaving or not the whole entire time. So she wants to live her dream. That's great for her. And I hope that she gets out of it what she hopes to get out of it. I hope that she's used right in WWE. I hope that they know what they have.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with low hanging fruit. I hope they just keep her name as Mariah May.
Well, of
I mean, it's
course.
very easy. You don't want to call her like Mariah November or Mariah March or something weird like that. That's great. Now I just put it out into
Mariah February.
yeah.
Also, a thing that just happened on Tuesday that surprised a lot of people.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell?
Stephanie Vaquer is no longer the NXT champion, and the person that is
JC Jane.
Is JC Jane.
Former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion, former running mate of Mandy Rose, one of probably the longest reigning NXT Women's Champions ever.
Yes,
but so a lot of people win out of nowhere.
So a lot of people are suspecting that the reason that this was done, is because Mariah is just going to beat her very early.
That too, yeah. And on a side note, I just noticed a tweet from Mr. Adam Pearce that apparently Stephanie Vaquer has officially signed with Raw, and she will debut next Monday in a Money in Bank qualifying match with Liv Morgan and can't remember the third woman involved, but Stephanie Vaquer is coming to Raw, so yeah, so that frees up space, and a lot of people are speculating. Well, you're taking out Stephanie. Possibly Jordan Grace is going to SmackDown. So you just freed up a lot of space in the women's division. And,
So obviously it's well documented that I have concerns. Because look at what Andrade's doing right now. Look at, a lot. Look at, like, even Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix is losing matches a lot.
Rey Fenix is currently in a tag team match with Javon Evans from NXT tonight, facing Los Garzas on SmackDown. Rey Fenix will also be competing for the NXT North American Championship at Worlds Collide in a 4-way match with Javon, Laredo Kid from AAA, and the current champion Ethan Page, who, by the way, also recently became the North American champion in a sort of, I wouldn't say a surprise win against Ricky Saints. Who is another name who is apparently heading on his way to main roster as well.
So, So
a lot of AEW alumni.
A lot of AEW alumni going to the other place, and that's great for them. And I hope that all of those people, and not to make this about WWE versus AEW, I want WWE to be good. And it's not right now. It's really bad. But that doesn't mean that these people won't get what they want out of being there. I don't think Andrade is. I'm just saying. He looks very unhappy. But maybe Mariah and Ricky and Jordan and all of these people will get what they want out of being in that company. And I hope that they do. And I hope that that company starts to care so I can start to care. So, now let's get off of this tangent. WWE is doing stuff. AEW.
Yep, let's get to one of the two main matches of the show.
Yes. So, this is the big one. the Anarchy in the Arena match. So, usually when they have these matches, it goes on last because they're going to destroy stuff.
Yeah.
Instead, it went on third to last,
Yeah.
which is weird.
Well, that they were you mentioned that it was only appropriate that the finals of the Owen Hart tournament would bookend this show.
Well, yes,
So, and
Adam Page did that promo with Will Ospreay saying that they are going to be the main event, and because of what that match means to get the AEW title back, the actual belt, the belt that we have not seen since October. And it's high importance. So the match is of high importance. So I get it. It's just weird that this isn't the co-main and instead is sandwiched between the main event and a pointless 6-man. But either way, this is easily the best Anarchy in the Arena match since the first one.
Yeah, okay, let's start with how this began. Okay, so each individual member was getting called to the ring. Conspicuous by his absence was Samoa Joe.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a bit. But then the Young Bucks came out to a rendition of the Declaration of Independence / the Magna Carta, some weird thing about how they're the founding fathers now. So instead of just being like succession and business guys, they are the founding fathers of AEW. And they came out in like these weird trench coats that were worn by like, I don't know, the American revolutionaries.
Yes, they were essentially,
and they ended up wrestling the entire match in those outfits.
Yes,
they also had a graphic of Mount Rushmore of their faces multiplied twice on all four faces of Mount Rushmore. So Matt, Nick are the founding fathers, completely obscuring Kenny, Cody Rhodes, blah blah blah.
Yes. So they we'll get back to the Young Bucks in a second. Swerve does a Predator entrance with the mask and everything. That was really cool. And everybody else just came out like normal.
Like, okay.
So yeah, as you mentioned, the Ops came out, and it was just Will Hobbs and Shibata, and Swerve is like, where's Samoa Joe? Like, and Will Hobbs is like, I don't know. So the match, like, as we're getting closer to the start of the match, everybody's like, well, did something happen? Is Samoa Joe doing something?
So, and we get to the point where the Death Riders music hits, and then they start coming out. And then I think they kind of
they split up.
They were in the back. They split up. Mox and Marina went off one way. Claudio and Lyuda went off the other way.
And the reason that they did that was so that they could get the opening shot of the 4 camera shots at once. So Claudio is by himself up on one of the
entrances to the
entrances of the audience. And Samoa Joe just appears behind him. No, nothing special. Nothing like it. I remember somebody said, "Oh, is he gonna like show up like Sweet Tooth and Twisted Metal or like?" Nope,
man.
Nope. He just showed up behind Claudio and started beating the shit out of him.
And then
and then as you mentioned, the Young Bucks do this Founding Fathers entrance with this really long intro that was like 5 minutes long.
And they're playing some stupid tune where it was like Paul Revere's Last Ride or some bullshit like that.
And in Anarchy in the Arena fashion, this song continued for like 3 minutes. And while the brawl is happening, Kenny Omega gets on the mic. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the entire thing. Kenny Omega gets on the mic and he's like, turn this shit off. put on some real music.
Right. And so what started playing was "I'm So Excited" by the Pointer Sisters.
Yes. And
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes, and I think that this was a rib on the audience because of when they originally got the rights to use this song. It was to be the theme song of Dynamite, and
Oh my God.
people hated it immediately. And they were like, "Why is this the theme song of Dynamite? Get rid of this." But my favorite part of that entire thing was when that happened. Kenny Omega first went like this. He's like,
What the hell is this?
okay. And then Swerve was like, what? What? And then he was like, okay.
Fine.
And then they just started fighting while that song was playing. And then Kenny Omega gets on the mic again, and he's like, "All right, enough of this. This doesn't fit.
This is not the vibe.
This is not the vibe. Let's put on some of that 2000s metal shit."
Let's put on some of that 2000s heavy metal. Play that shit. And what happened to play was, I would have to say, one of the classics.
One of the best theme songs in wrestling history.
"Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" by Drowning
Pool. Yes,
it was like, so, this was definitely early 2000s. Like
people will remember this as being the theme song of ECW during the Alliance era, and this song, I mean, obviously, it's one of the best songs in nu metal history. It's like ingrained in wrestling, and they played this song 4 times because, unlike when they did it with
the Final Countdown,
which is a 7-minute song, so it literally only played once. This song is only 3 minutes long. So it just restarted 4 times. And I put out a tweet that said, I'd like to say that this is the first time that I've heard this song 3 times in a row on repeat, but that would be a lie. And
it was actually very apropos music for the chaos that ensued.
So as I mentioned, the song played 4 times. And of course they did the thing that they've done in all of these matches when the music continues to play. Did something in the match that caused it to stop. Which was one of my favorite parts. Claudio and Swerve are fighting over by the ramp, and there's just a random speaker. And of course, this has nothing to do with the music of the entire building, but they basically just made the music stop as soon as that speaker was destroyed.
So what happened? I believe you're referring to the spot where Claudio grabs Swerve and does the Cesaro swing.
Yes.
And then he just swings Swerve's head into the speaker, and I guess the music just stopped.
And the music just abruptly stopped.
Oh, like, okay.
Which I absolutely loved it. That was
in between all that shit, there was like a spot where I think Omega jumped off a railing on like another section.
First he threw Wheeler Yuta
off,
right?
Yeah,
he threw Wheeler Yuta off of this.
It was like security down below. That was just like,
they had all the security and some of the wrestlers in the match to catch him, and then Omega just decided to do a moonsault off of that, and on top of everybody. There was a point where Moxley brought back the fork, and he was stabbing Will Hobbs in the face with it.
Meanwhile, let's not forget Willow Nightingale's in this match, and she and obviously Marina were the only
2 women.
Women in the match. They fought outside at a point, and I think one of them picked up a frying pan as a weapon. After someone slammed someone through a table that didn't break again, and I'm like, okay, this is becoming a pattern.
Yes.
Speaking of Yuta, he was thrown into a dumpster by Shibata, who then proceeded to like wheel the, no pun intended, wheel said dumpster into a the steel door or the garage door and just dumping Yuta out like garbage. What else was there?
Yeah.
Joe and Claudio fought for a long time.
Yes. While Marina and Willow were fighting, they ended up back at ringside, and somehow they had like a chain or something,
Yeah.
and they put it in Willow's ear,
right,
and then
but it was a
locked it.
padlock. They padlocked Willow's ear to a chain, and then they locked the padlock.
Yeah, so
So
she was
Willow's
just
ear was stuck.
so she's just chained to the ring post by her
Right.
ear and
Yeah.
can't do anything for like 5
Right.
minutes.
Right. Meanwhile,
Then
Marina, who is a shoot MMA fighter, goes
yes.
after some of the other combatants.
So during a lot of this, like the Young Bucks are fighting up the ramp, and Swerve appears on a pallet on a forklift.
So okay,
And
you talk about the rally because there was a point where the advantage went to the Bucks and the Death Riders. They had everybody down and out,
yeah,
and like they're beating down Kenny, they're beating down Joe, they're beating down Hobbs. And then the Swerve was disappeared for a while, and then he
yeah,
came back on a forklift and a pallet, driven by some random
guy.
staff
Yeah.
person.
And Nana was just riding it.
It would have made more sense if Nana drove the forklift, right?
No, I don't think he knew how. That's why he was riding it.
Oh, okay.
But yes, he came in on the pallet and jumped and did a stomp on both of the Young Bucks while they were standing on the ramp. Then while like all of this is happening, they have a table set up on the ramp, and Will Hobbs is laying on it, and Nick jumps up there and does a swanton off of the screen onto the table. Then at some point they start like everybody starts like fighting up the ramp, and well, even before that there was a good reveal of so Hobbs was wearing this shirt that
Yep.
that said big, black, and jacked.
Yep.
And at some point in the match, he hits a spine buster, and then Willow also hits a spine buster, and she removes her overalls to reveal that she is also wearing that shirt.
Yep.
Which was actually a really cool moment.
Yeah.
And
let's just say at this point, Willow was freed from the padlock when
yes.
Nana found the keys to the padlock.
Yes. So then a moment that I absolutely, probably my favorite moment of the entire match. Somebody brought a staple gun into the match and tried to use it on Will Hobbs. I believe it was Matt Jackson.
Right.
And Will Hobbs was like, "Are you serious?
I don't feel a thing."
And he throws the staple gun away. And that leads to Swerve picking up the staple gun, and we all know his history with staple guns. So he just starts doing like staple gun martial arts. like I don't know how else to explain it. It's like he's using nunchucks, but it's a staple gun.
Right, like Nick Jackson would come at him and he just sidesteps, staples like Nick in the head, in the neck or something.
Yeah, he just was doing all these random spots with the staple gun.
Jump off the ring ape, the turnbuckle, and then he just like staple guns him in the chest.
Yeah,
and at one point it was like Matt Jackson. He had something. Yes. He had Swerve down his knees, and then Swerve just staples Matt's in the nuts.
Yes. So he had like, and then they get a hold of him and staple gun his tongue. So Swerve just has a staple in his tongue now.
Right.
and
And it's
he
just
kept it,
there.
and it's just there for the
Right.
remainder of the match.
Yeah, like it hurt, and then he just started going, ha 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 ha. I got staple on the
Yeah,
tongue. I'm like, you're fucking crazy, dude.
yeah. And then him and Willow took a picture after after the show. He's showing his tongue with the staple in it, and she's showing her ear with the chain still attached.
Oh, okay.
And after this happens, Hook arrives.
Yeah, that was odd. Yeah, Claudio was getting back in the ring, and then suddenly this guy in the hood starts coming in and hitting him
He was
with a golf
wearing
club.
a Kenny from South Park sweatshirt,
Okay.
and he had the hood up, and he just arrives, hits Claudio with a golf club, looks at Samoa Joe, and Samoa Joe's like, "Hey, welcome back," and he shakes his head and walks away. And then we never see Hook again.
No, and there was no follow up on Dynamite.
No.
I feel this is sort of the thing where like Hook was injured prior to them winning the trios titles.
Well, yeah,
And I
and they
guess
just
in a
replaced
sense,
him with
they just
Hobbs.
replaced him with Hobbs,
Yeah.
who used to be on Team Taz with Hook and
Yep.
his dad and Ricky Starks. So there was a prior history there.
Yep.
I can understand that he feels resented. He got like just cast aside for like the shiny new toy and whatever. But they didn't
So,
really do anything to follow up on that. We'll
yep.
see what happens with that.
So later into the match, Samoa Joe and John Moxley are the only people in the ring. Everybody else is kind of just like laid out.
Right.
And Samoa Joe gets Moxley in the Kikina clutch.
Mm-hmm.
Where at the point, like, oh, is the match going to end here? And then Gabe Kidd arrives. And I guess at this point, he's just a full-fledged member of the Death Riders.
Right. Because
He's
the other British guy they have is injured.
because he's carrying around the briefcase with the belt in it. We presume that has the belt in it. And he breaks up the choke. And then just like an all-out like brawl of him just beating up everybody. He hits a pile driver on Kenny, and he starts to help them like beat the shit out of everybody, and then they decide to walk up the ramp, and the ambulance is still there. The ambulance from like 6 matches ago. And they open the ambulance and there's nobody inside. And then at the corner of your eye, while this is happening, Mark Briscoe just flies in off of the stage, still covered in blood from the earlier match.
And then he stares down Gabe Kidd, and then they have a thing, and then they start brawling.
Yes, they start brawling.
Like, I was at this point. I was slightly disappointed, but I can understand why they did what they did. I was expecting Eddie Kingston to return.
Of course,
point,
we were all expecting,
because Eddie broke his leg about over a year ago, and it was because of Gabe Kidd. He also has prior history with Moxley and the Death Riders, and
it would have been the perfect. It would have been the perfect moment.
Yeah,
but
like I was actually thinking, oh wait, Samoa Joe was missing earlier. Does that mean that he was gonna? But he's not ready yet, apparently.
Yeah, physically he just can't go yet. He's still like he had a lot to deal with in his recovery. So after this happens, after Mark Briscoe appears, all of the Blackpool Combat Club like is fighting up the ramp.
Yeah,
I said
Death Riders.
Death Riders. I said Blackpool Combat Club, but all of the Death Riders are fighting up the ramp, and as we mentioned, the ambulance is still there for some reason.
Yep.
And everybody in the match essentially locks the Death Riders
and Gabe Kidd
in the ambulance. And they just have to do nothing now and watch.
While the Young Bucks are in there with Swerve and Kenny.
And that leaves the Young Bucks.
Did we also mention that Kenny had a mouthful of tacks earlier, and did the spot where he got kicked in the mouth while the tacks were in his mouth?
Yes, that is correct. Everybody else has been locked in the ambulance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just the Young Bucks in the ring with Swerve and Kenny. And Nana brings in a pair of Swerve's new sneakers, and they have thumbtacks on.
Yes, and so
And
Swerve is changing his boots into the sneakers.
yes,
You should also mention that Kenny Omega, I think he hit this on Matt Jackson, a one-winged angel off of like some
off the
guardrail
stage,
off
off
the
the
stage
stage,
onto a table,
an
which then
exploding table,
exploded.
an exploding table.
I was like, hold on, wait a minute. I was like, what was that? And then I looked at the table later. I was like, oh, they have squibs on the bottom, so they like
Yeah,
rigged the table to explode.
yes.
I'm like, great, fantastic.
And yes, so Swerve hits a Swerve stomp with the tacks on the shoes
On Nick Jackson
on Nick
and
Jackson,
covers
and then
him 1, 2, 3.
yes, and then yeah, we got the exploding one winged angel, and then yes, Swerve secures the victory for his team. I love this match so much, and it's so weird because like the past couple of years, the Anarchy match has still been fun, but like ever since the first one where we had the Eddie Kingston walking out covered in blood with the gas can, and like it hasn't felt as special since that one. This one felt
Or with Darby and the flamethrower was that one. That
yeah.
was that too, right?
Well, last year Darby got hung upside down by his feet.
Oh yeah.
um and got treated like a piñata. But yes, this was probably my favorite Anarchy in the Arena match since the first one. I absolutely like I loved every single moment. I loved the drowning pool stuff. I love every spot that they did. I loved everything. This match was great. And we really don't know what is next for pretty much everybody in this except for Kenny and Moxley. We
Yeah,
know what they're
because there's a series of injuries. Nick has apparently a concussion.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my presumption before this the Dynamite that just passed was that Swerve was going to continue with the Young Bucks. But if that injury is preventing that, I don't know, or if they're just moving on in general. Um we'll obviously talk about Swerve again when we get to the main event. But yeah, everybody else, I mean, you could do something with the trios belts again. Uh do like a multi-team like ladder match or something. I don't know. Um but yeah, Kenny, we know what Kenny's doing. We and we think that yeah, so we'll see with everybody else. But all right. So now this brings us to the second pointless match of the night. Now, from a story perspective, the match isn't pointless because they did set this up, but it just didn't need to be on this show. Um, so they had a tag match
Yeah, I
between
mean, it was so weird. You had this chaotic Anarchy in the Arena thing, and then I guess this was designed to let us cool back down by watching the Don Callis family
yeah.
face the Paragon. I'm
So
like, okay.
so yes, we had Takeshita, Josh Alexander, and Kyle Fletcher taking on all of Paragon, and they set this up on the previous collision, I think it was, where they basically had this exact match just without Kyle Fletcher and Adam Cole,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kyle Fletcher got involved, and then Adam Cole got involved, presuming like that they were going to be setting up a TNT title match between them, which is a match I kind of expected to happen down the line, Kyle Fletcher and Adam Cole. But instead, we got that match on the following Dynamite, and here we got a 6-man, which was fine, but I get it was just like it just didn't feel like it needed to be here. It I love everybody in this match. Everybody in this match are great. Literally great. But like couldn't we just go to the main event?
Yeah, it was like, okay, you've got me up at this high already. Why don't you just
Yeah.
cap it off with the Owen, right? No,
Yeah.
it was
I
it
mean, you
was,
could
it
have.
was strange.
So yeah, I mean, it was a fun match for what it was. It was just like really like you hate being that. Everybody kind of hates being that match right before the main event if it's not like that Anarchy match. Like it just feels like you're putting me in this spot to get you ready for the thing that everybody's here for. And it just sucks. But like I said, the match was fine. The Don Callis family won the match, um, which like led to which is what I expected because I figured that was going to lead to the TNT title match that we got on Dynamite, which was the stupidest finish in the world.
Right, because like, okay, you're trying to get your proto star a title, Don. So why would you send? And I love, obviously, Canadian guy. I love Josh Alexander, but why would you have Josh come in and cause a disqualification?
Even if
You can't win
like
the title that way.
yeah, like even if it looked like Adam Cole was about to win, like
Which I don't think he was.
yeah, but like
I
it just
wasn't
didn't.
sure.
But like, why have the match if you're just gonna do
Yeah.
this? Like,
But this what happened here was as Adam was being beaten down and stuff because apparently Roddy and Kyle were taken out earlier. This led to
yeah,
Brody King coming down to scatter the Don Callis family because at that point he had a match with Josh Alexander to
yeah,
qualify for the TNT four-way. I'm sorry, not TNT, the AEW International Title four-way match at Fyter Fest,
yeah,
which he won. So Brody
yes,
King has advanced.
yes. But after
After
that match
busting
was
open Josh's face, which was like,
yeah,
wow.
but after that match was the most confusing part. Because after that match, um, we had it was Ishii that came out first,
Okay.
I think,
No,
and
you know what I remember was Kyle in the back
yeah,
stage doing a segment about how pissed off he was. But I'm like, looking at the guy. I'm like, well, why did your guy come out and stop them? Essentially, cost you the title match, dude. He's getting mad about
yeah,
that, and suddenly Adam Cole comes out of nowhere, and they start brawling again. And then like security had to separate them, and then okay, you can tell there's going to be a rematch for that. But
yeah.
I don't recall the Ishii portion. Ishii
Wait,
came out. I feel. Oh no! I remember now. Yes, there was a reason why this match happened. So the 6-man at Double or Nothing. I mean,
yeah,
so after the match, the Don Callis family is laying waste to Paragon here, and then suddenly, yes, Brody King comes out with Tomohiro Ishii, who I believe may have been taken out several weeks ago by someone from Don Callis family.
yeah.
And they come out and they're like look like they're
Looking,
outnumbered. And then
they're looking, yeah,
suddenly the music of New Japan Pro Wrestling's president, Toroshi Tanahashi comes out.
yeah.
Tanahashi joins these guys in the ring and they scatter the Don Callis family.
So this is not what I was expecting at all.
It's like,
I
what?
was
I was like, I thought Tanahashi retired, unless he
he's officially retiring at Wrestle Kingdom,
right. But I was
which
like,
is in January.
yeah,
But I was expecting Buddy Matthews. I don't know.
oh
Like,
yeah, right. I was like, what the
I
hell
mean, like,
happened?
obviously, I don't know how hurt he is, but yeah, the last person I was expecting was Hiroshi Tanahashi here. And
I don't know. Maybe they're doing like a Forbidden Door, like kind of a
yes,
push
so
here.
so they did it. They did a thing in the ring, and he did the worst sling blade he's ever hit ever.
Oh dear God.
Like, because the guy can't go anymore. He's old. His knees are shot. Like, obviously, Tanahashi is a legend in New Japan. He's probably the biggest star New Japan has ever created. Ever. But, yeah, I get that the reason he's retiring is because he can't go anymore. But, yeah, it's it, the
Yeah,
guy,
it was odd. It was funny odd. It was like,
yeah,
okay, great,
it was just
Tanahashi.
so weird. And I guess that we're going to continue Paragon and Don Callis family. I
Well, at least
presume,
Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher. Like, do another one of those. Like,
yeah,
maybe
I mean,
with no
obviously,
interference this time.
I I don't think that will be an all in match. I think
No,
but that'll be something that they do in the lead up to All In. I can't imagine what Adam Cole actually does at All In though. I mean, unless they do that gauntlet uh thing again, they could do that. Um the the gauntlet
yeah, Gauntlet Eliminator or whatever.
yeah, whatever that thing is that they did
Yeah.
last year that Nigel was in.
Hmm.
Um yeah.
I mean, I have
Uh
an interesting idea. You know, we were debating about earlier what to do with the Continental Classic. Why don't we um do a thing where like every year the Continental Classic, I think like a random singles men's champion will enter it and do the
yeah.
thing you're supposed to do with the Continental belt.
Uh
Like if you can survive through through the tournament and then make it to the finals, and then
yeah,
you know,
do that with the TNT belt or
yeah, like
do
this year be with the TNT champion, and the next year be the international champion, and then maybe one time randomly they'll do it with the Ring of Honor world champion. Who knows, right?
yeah.
Something.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with everybody involved here. Obviously, like I said, that we 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 both love Josh Alexander. Kyle Fletcher is great. Takeshita, we were talking like babyface run like soon, I hope. Um they also planted seeds that Kyle Fletcher was not happy about the DQ in the title match.
Hmm.
Um so is he going to like are they planting seeds for him to leave the Callis family? Like maybe he gets sick of Don's shit because he was trying to win a belt.
I
And
mean, eventually, I feel like
I
that's
mean,
maybe part of
Takeshita and Fletcher are both heading in that direction, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, congrats to Takeshita, by the way. He announced his marriage to Yuka Sakazaki.
Oh yes,
Um
in terms of things Kyle Fletcher is mad about.
oh yes. He because that's his work husband.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Kyle has gone on record saying Kateja is one of the most beautiful men he's ever seen, and like he can't imagine life without him, that sort of thing. And I believe there will be a death match between him and Yuka to for
yes.
custody of Takeshita at the end of the day.
Yes. Yes. I'm sure that'll be great. All right. So let's get to the main event. The match that we were all looking forward to. The match we all knew was going to be a classic. The men's final of the Owen Hart Cup. Adam Hangman Page against Will Ospreay. This is a match of the year candidate for sure. That there was drama, there was back and forth action, there was heightened like uh reversals. They pulled out moves from or tried to attempt to do moves of their biggest rivals. They like
Yeah, that was interesting.
uh this match and it was super hard hitting. They were really laying in a lot
Yeah,
of those
they wrestled for
chops.
37 minutes basically.
Yeah, well, it was, and as we mentioned at the beginning, this match was built up as being super important because we got to get that world title back,
Yeah.
and it it is super important. The drama is there, the story is there, So going into this match, and we talked about this a little offline. Going into this match, I think myself and everybody involved were like, okay, like they're doing something here with Swerve and Hangman. They're building something. Obviously, they're going to team it all in against the Young Bucks. So Will Ospreay has to win, right? Like that I think that was a lot of people's thought process going into this match. And I don't think there was a good amount of people that thought Hangman would win just because of that reason. The Swerve stuff. And so Hangman, I mean, we'll talk more about the match, but Hangman winning kind of surprised a lot of people. And then I thought about it, and like they have acknowledged on screen that Hangman is the main character of AEW. Everything that has happened to this point that has been the most important thing in this company is centered around him. So it only makes sense for the main character of AEW to be the person to save the championship. And it only makes sense that the build to this of all of us thinking that Will Ospreay is going to be the savior of AEW when the main character of AEW was the savior all along, because it's a story. His story, especially in the last 2 years, is about him building to up to that point of redemption, of forgiveness, of self-reflection, of being a better man, because Swerve turned him into somebody he didn't want to be. And he hated the fact that even though he beat Swerve in that all-out cage match that was unsanctioned, he felt zero fulfillment because that wasn't what he was here for. That he got redemption for what Swerve did to him, and Swerve has even acknowledged that what he did was wrong. But if that's not the redemption is him saving the company he loves and being the one to save the company from the Death Riders and John Moxley ultimately.
So do you think Heyman is the one to dethrone John at All In?
I do. I feel like
it's not Darby Allin anymore.
No. So a lot of people have brought up that point because of the Wrestle Dream stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can't prolong this. It has to be All In. All In is your biggest night, your biggest show, your biggest event. It has to be that moment where it's the closing shot of the final of the biggest show of the year. And the person that has been at the center of your company saved your company and saved the championship. And Darby will get his time to shine. It doesn't have to be now. He chose to climb a mountain. Seriously, he could have been here. He could have been here to build to this moment. He could have been in the Owen Hart Cup. He could have won the Owen Hart Cup and built to that moment where, because a lot of people love Darby Allin. Darby Allin is a very liked talent. He's one of the more over talents in the entire company. But he wasn't here. And they can turn that into an angle also. They could say, oh, well, you chose to do this instead of saving the company you care about. And I feel like it has to be Hangman. Especially now. But yes. As for Will Ospreay, so on Dynamite, all right, well, let's talk about the match first. I thought that they like there was a point where especially in like matches like these, they always do like the false finishes, like kicking out of the buckshot, kicking out of the when Will Ospreay hit hit his finisher, the not the
Stormbreaker.
yeah, the Stormbreaker. When he hit the Stormbreaker, I was certain the match was over.
Yeah,
I was certain.
And then Hangman kicked out at 2.
And I was like they got me there. That was like legitimate. Like I was shocked. And yeah, he hit the big pressure, which nobody saw that coming. The JML driver. Kenny Will tried to do the one-winged angel. But yeah,
He hit the V trigger, I think.
yes, he did hit a V trigger and then tried to do the one-winged angel right after.
Yeah.
He hit the hidden blade multiple times, and Hangman kicked out of it every time. And even when he hit that final buckshot, I didn't think that was the finish. Like, especially after, and it was more so because he kicked out of the Stormbreaker. I didn't think that final buckshot was the finish. Uh, uh, I thought they were going to go. But yeah, I haven't yet, but I'm definitely going to watch this match again. This is one of those matches. Like, I can't say that it's not yet. I can't say that it's on the level of like a Danielson Ospreay or Omega Ospreay, but it is in the conversation for sure. And Will Ospreay just continues to prove why he is the best wrestler in the world. And Hangman is just I can't even put it into words. Hangman is everything that AEW stands for. And him being the person that he is, and telling the story that he's been telling these past 2 years, like, has proven to me that he can do anything and make it work. Anything. Yeah, I so on Dynamite, Hangman was doing a promo and he was interrupted by Swerve, which I did not see coming. I thought about it. I was like, wait, is Swerve going to come out here? But why would he? And then he shows the video. He shows the video of after Dynasty when the Young Bucks did a promo stating that they were helping their friend Hangman because Hangman made a promise that Swerve would never be world champion ever again. And they were just helping him because they love him. And Swerve says that how is he not to believe that because they said that he wasn't in on it? And that Hangman was behind it all along to get to this point where he has won the Owen and is going to challenge for Swerve's championship at the biggest show of the year. And Hangman essentially like says like I don't have to prove it to you because it didn't happen that way. And then Will Ospreay comes out. And I especially wasn't expecting this. So Will Ospreay comes out and basically says that after last night or after Sunday night when I had this match with Hangman, he proved to me the kind of person he is and proved to me that he's good and proved to me that he wants to save this company and we need to help him save this company. And Swerve immediately gets angry and knocks the mic out of Ospreay's hand and says, "I will never help that man ever." And Ospreay acknowledges his relationship with Swerve, how long they've known each other since coming up in the business, and how he trusts him with his life, and that's why he needs to trust him here. But Swerve is not having it, and he leaves. And then he tries to do the same thing with Hangman, and Hangman says, "I will never work with that man, ever," and just walks away. So now Ospreay is just left alone in the ring, dejected, because both of them have denied what he's, turned him away. But obviously, the build here has to lead to something with Swerve and Hangman eventually being friends and being on the same page. That has to be where this is going at some point. But with that said, we were talking like during Anarchy in the Arena, what does Swerve do at All In? And I think after this promo, I think it's a rematch with Will Ospreay. Because I can't imagine anything else for them to do right now, unless they're going to team against the Young Bucks, if the Young Bucks are able to go at All In. But okay, I've talked long enough. Alan, what do you have to say about all of that?
I mean, so I may have missed this segment as I only caught like maybe I missed half an hour of the Dynamite in the beginning, so I probably missed this promo. So from the way you're describing it, it sounds like it makes sense, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm. It's obvious. Eventually, there's going to be some kind of reconciliation between Swerve and Heyman. Like they're not going to be friends. They're going to be buddy buddy, but I think they'll come together with mutual interests, such as getting the world title back from Mox, and then whatever finishing up this thing with the Bucks whenever they are healed up. Because yeah, like the Bucks are like still treating Heyman like he's their buddy, but it's like I'm not sure yet, and it's kind of confusing. Also, we don't know where Jack Perry is. He's still technically part of the Elite, so he's kind of disappeared off television for a while.
And John Moxley acknowledged on camera that he liked it.
You like what?
Oh, Jack Perry.
Oh yes, that. So yeah, in terms of like, yeah, I don't know if they're looking for someone to like back them up, the Death Riders, it'd be like a thing where you just loan a guy to another place to another group for a while.
It is odd that he hasn't shown up in this.
Yeah, it was
in,
like
in, in
what
any
happened
of this.
to Jack Perry? Like, I don't really remember the last time I saw Jack Perry, so it's like, what happened to him?
Yeah,
totally, completely not sure.
I can't recall it either, honestly. When was the last time he was in AEW? Let's look it up. So yeah, I think that let's see, Jack Perry. So Jack Perry's last match in AEW. Damn it. Cage match. Let me see the thing. Matches. His last match in AEW was in November against Daniel Garcia.
Didn't he lose a TNT title or something from at that point?
Yes. That's when he lost the TNT title to Daniel Garcia.
Yep.
At Full Gear. That was his last match in AEW. Full Gear.
Yeah, that's really odd.
And he's only wrestled 2 matches since then.
Yeah, but not on
but
AEW.
not in AEW.
Yeah.
He tagged with Takeshita in December against LIJ, Shingo, and Suji at Strong Style Evolved. And then after that, he had a IWGP Global title match against Suji at New Japan's Wrestle Dynasty. That was his last match. New Japan's Wrestle Dynasty, which is January 5th. So Jack Perry just hasn't been wrestling since January. Maybe he's just doing other things. Maybe he just working on other things. I don't know. But yeah, it is kind of odd that he hasn't been involved in this at all. But also, like, since the Young Bucks have been back, they've barely been involved with Okada.
That's true.
Like, barely.
Maybe are they maybe deciding that the Elite or just the last version of it has kind of run its course, and
I don't know.
Because like you think about it, you talked about Okada earlier. They're moving towards actually having the kind of Okada that was in Japan, right?
Yeah.
And the Bucks at this point, I'm not sure where the direction is. They're they are in the fact sort of like part of running the company in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Kenny's kind of got a second win as a champion, as international champion. And Hangman, probably is gonna be the world champion by All In. And Jack Perry, whenever he returns, may just be splintered off to do his own thing. So
yeah.
I'm not really sure at this point where those guys are all gonna go.
I think for the first time in a long time, like, we really don't know what a lot of these people are doing right now, and that's fine. We don't want to know everything. Obviously, we want to be surprised in the build and everything, but really, the only thing that we are absolutely sure of is both championship matches happening at All In, and that's it. I mean, again, like we've talked about, like, obviously we're building to Omega and Okada. Obviously, we're building to, FTR and something with Copeland. But everything else, everybody else, is very up in the air. Literally. Like, what else is happening at All In? Obviously, I'm very excited to find out. But yeah, that was AEW Double or Nothing 2025. Easily one of the better shows that they've done this year. It's that and Revolution right now as like two of their better shows, and I'm very excited for the future of AEW. I'm excited to see how we're gonna get to All In with everything that's happening. And yeah, we're gonna see, and Will Ospreay said it in that promo with Swerve and Hangman that AEW, like the feeling is being restored. It's starting to feel like the AEW of old again, and I'm excited for that. I feel like AEW has been killing it. A lot of their shows have been great. Some questionable storylines, but shows and match cards and everything that they've been doing otherwise just keeps getting better, in my opinion. And yeah, Alan, give us your closing thoughts.
Yeah, this was a solid pay-per-view. Obviously the Anarchy in the Arena and the two Owen Cup finals were the highlights of the show. Looking forward to seeing what's coming at All In, as well as the 4-hour Fighter Fest coming up.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued about that because I'm not sure, other than that fatal 4-way international title match that we're getting, which, as you mentioned, only has Brody King so far. We get 2 other matches on Collision to determine the other 2 entrants. It's Claudio versus Commander, and the other one is Hechicero versus somebody else.
Mascara Dorado.
Mascara Dorado. Okay, yeah. So one of those 2 and probably Claudio. So that should be a fun match. And yeah, that is going to do it for us, guys. Make sure to go to our link tree. It has all of our links of our social medias, how to watch and listen to the show, linktree/going over big time podcast. And look out for other things that we have planned. I am batting around some ideas for doing more writing, so I might be doing some more of that down the line. Hopefully, we'll have some guests on here in the future. Some exciting stuff going on in the world of wrestling, and we love talking about it. So that's going to do it. Make sure to watch the wrestling that you want to watch, not the wrestling that everybody tells you to watch. Watch what you enjoy and just enjoy it. And that's that. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.